Now, before you click off the video, I know you've seen the title. I know you've read the title, but hear me out. Let me make a case for EA Games. Now, I know that may seem like an impossible task coming from the company that once said single player games are dead. The company that exclusively thrives on live service and just random low effort multiplayer games. But ever since they made that famous tweet mocking single player games, I don't know if it was an intentional shift from EA or just them having had so many good single player games in the cut. But in 2023, EA has low-key been making a slight comeback, and that renaissance was started by the Dead Space remake. Now, for this video, of course, I'm going to be referencing mainly the Dead Space remake and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I will be using my gameplay footage of. You'll be seeing that in the background. But the reason why I decided to make this video is because recently, with their announcement of the Iron Man game they're making, I was surprised to hear that they're actually gonna not make that one a live service game, which from EA is fucking mad surprising, if I'm honest, because again, as much as I hate live service games, they make a lot of money, and if I was EA, I would have gone down that same path. But I think having recently seen the backlash that we saw towards the Avengers game, what was Gotham Knights, and all sorts of other superhero IP that just went down the live service path, I think EA realized that, okay, let's not make that same mistake. Let's lean more towards the Spider-Man path. And like we've seen Insomniac do so successfully with Spider-Man, it doesn't have to be a live service game to be successful. You can make it a single player story game or offer multiplayer elements within the single player story game, and it can still be a successful game. It doesn't have to just be live action, microtransactions, left, right, and center, and just make everything battle passes and whatnot. Yeah, you can actually make a successful single player story superhero IP, which is something that, again, I don't know why the industry has not looked at a lot more. But I think with the success that we had with some of the Batman Arkham Knight games, and with the success of Spider-Man, and the potential success of upcoming Wolverine from Insomniac Games, I think EA has sort of realized that, okay, we can pivot. We can take Iron Man down a different path and still make it a successful path, similar to what they saw with the Dead Space remake and Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now, EA have already given us a lot of reasons to hate them. A lot of reasons, trust me. One of them being buying up smaller companies and running their IP into the ground. EA basically has a long history of spreading itself across the game industry, gorging itself on smaller companies, like some sort of octopus, if I had to give an example. Like, most of those companies were bought up because they had developed a successful game series with a strong, loyal fan base. And then EA just basically comes in, swoops, makes changes to the series in an effort to appeal to a, air quotes, broader audience. And then it ends up resulting in bad sales, which often results in EA closing the company and then sitting on that IP and just never doing anything with that IP forever and ever and ever again. Another thing is they're good at messing up games with a passionate fan base. Again, once in a while we hear news about a game company that royally screws up a game that's part of a series with a strong following. Another example that I would give is Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed. And again, EA is also the poster child of bad DRM. And what do I mean by bad DRM? There are times when DRM enters the realm of inconvenience for the consumer. And when that happens, the battle is lost. Why pay money for a subpar service when the cracked version has the removed inconveniences? Whether it's just smaller things like online passes that can only be registered on one machine, or always online requirements. Like I've mentioned before, I've never understood single player games that have to always be online. But yeah, that's another thing. that EA tend to mess up with. But in this video, like I said, I'm actually just going to be giving them their flowers for what they've done in 2023 so far, which personally I would hope they continue to do, because again, I love my multiplayer games. There are some live service games that I enjoy, but when I see EA dip into their bag and deliver great games like the Dead Space, I had so much fun with the Dead Space remake this year, and I had so much fun with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And I think I've mentioned it even before on this channel, the only games that I was placing above those two this year would be Spider-Man 2, which is yet to come out, and then the RE4 remake, which again I enjoyed. So far in 2023, the best game I've played this year was the Resident Evil 4 remake. But again, I'm a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, so that's a bit of a biased opinion coming from me. But right behind that, Dead Space remake. It gave me all the feels. It was a nicely done remake. It felt a remake to the level that we saw famously Capcom do with their famous remakes. Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes, some of the greatest remakes ever made. The Mafia remake, which again, Dead Space invoked that kind of emotion for me. They kind of just did everything right. They didn't mess anything up. And then we come to Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Apart from the performance issues, on launch, pretty much everything else was perfect with the game. I kind of compared it to the way Horizon Forbidden West built on everything that Horizon Zero Dawn did, and it was basically a 10 out of 10 sequel. And I give that exact same energy to Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Of course, minus the performance issues. Like I keep saying, some people on PC and on PlayStation experience some performance issues. Personally, in my playthrough, the worst I saw was the occasional stuttering that you might even see in this gameplay that I'm using right now. But apart from that occasional stuttering and frames dropping, everything else was perfect in the game. I couldn't have asked for them to do better in terms of improving on an original game. And I think so far, they've knocked it out the park, 10 out of 10 with both of these games. Now, that may make me potentially a little bit overexcited for an Iron Man game. Again, I'm not a huge fan of superhero IP, but when superhero IP is done nicely, I can appreciate it, just like Spider-Man. And fingers crossed for Wolverine to be a good game from Insomniac. But yeah, anytime studios actually take their time and work, Batman, I always forget the Batman Arkham games. Anytime studios take their time and work perfectly on games like that, I feel like it's just necessary to give them their flowers. And so with EA, I hope to see more of this from them. I hope to see them pursuing a lot more single player games. Still keeping multiplayer aspects within the games, but just giving us good storytelling, giving us worlds that we can immerse in, worlds that we can just escape in, like channeling what they were good at and not just hovering studios and just thinking about profit before the actual product. And again, going back to another great release that they had, the publish of It Takes Two. Again, that was under the EA umbrella. That won basically Game of the Year 2 years ago, I think it was. I forget when I played it. 2021, yeah, the year after The Last of Us. But I think, again, in an ever-evolving landscape of the gaming industry, I think EA basically recognized that there actually is a growing demand and immense potential for both single-player and multiplayer games coexisting. It never had to be a battle between choosing to embrace one and neglect the other. I think that's the mistake that EA was making at a point where they were like, okay, we're making so much money from the live service games. We're making so much money from our recycled sports franchises, multiplayer games. There is no need to go down the quasi like single player route or slash multiplayer that's not necessarily always online kind of thing. But I think they've chosen to embrace this new direction, recommitting themselves a little bit to the creation of compelling single player experiences. Not because it's a good business decision from them, but I think they finally realized that they were just sitting on a lot of wasted potential. And a lot of this good IP that they own in their roster could have just been going to waste. But I'm actually glad that they chose to give these studios free reign, let these studios do their own thing, and then basically these studios are just publishing under the EA umbrella. So again, it brings me joy, as much as I love clowning on EA for all the other bullshit they do in the industry. When they do some good, I will always give them their flowers. And again, like I mentioned in the previous video, I always like to highlight the negative, but I'll also highlight the positive, because both impacts are good and bad for the gaming community, and we need to be able to discuss things from, you know, both angles. Not every day negative, not every day overly positive. And like I've mentioned before, the reason why I advocate so much for the existence of both single player and multiplayer games is because I think single player games often grant developers a freedom to create expansive worlds and intricate narratives. Developers can basically explore diverse genres, experiment with mechanics, shape unique experiences without the constraints that are often associated with multiplayer focused projects. And again, while multiplayer games have their place in gaming, I think they often prioritize monetization strategies and content updates. Like, I'm always laughing about game loot and battle passes over the actual artistic vision. So I think in contrast, that's where single player games tend to focus on delivering a complete cohesive experience from start to finish, because single player games aren't going to be able to get you to keep coming back every month for some sort of battle pass or anything like that. They have to deliver you an experience that has high replayability value from the jump, from start to finish. Again, because multiplayer games, they thrive on social interactions and competitive gameplay. So that's something that single player games can't really lean on. Single player games offer a different form of engagement. So again, like I said, I think EA choosing to give us a lot of good games this year, I hope they continue down this path. I hope this essay isn't premature in terms of me giving them their flowers and then they go down another nasty path. I still think they're gonna still have all their live service games that they're gonna monetize like fucking crazy, but I think they've seen that there's a market to be able to be, you know, taken advantage of with regards to some fun single player story games. And long may it live on. Let me know down in the comments, did you enjoy the Dead Space remake? Did you enjoy Star Wars Jedi Survivor? There's also a lot of other IP that they've done. I think Need for Speed is the other one that launched. Need for Speed Outbound or something like that. Although I'm not too familiar with racing games anymore. I haven't played one in ages. But let me know your favorite recent EA release. For me, I would probably have to pick It Takes Two. If we're going from like the last 3 years, It Takes Two was super fun. And that wasn't a single player. That was multiplayer. But that was super fun. Like, that was just a throwback to just like couch play, PlayStation 2 era type of gaming, where it's just mindless fun, harmless fun. The vibes that I get from like Ratchet and Clank. But again, let me know in the comments your favorite EA game. I'm picking It Takes Two in terms of the best feelings, but if I had to pin it to 2023, I'm probably gonna go with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This game was nicely done. 10 out of 10 barring the performance issues. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. As always, hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was a bit of a brief one. I'm gonna continue trying to make more of these videos where it's just more of discussions and just topics within the gaming industry. Like I said, positive, negative, whichever, just basically to be able to have a discussion and continue to grow the channel and communicate with the audience. But as always, stay safe, stay healthy, stay dangerous, stay blessed, and peace out, my good people.
A lot of crime on the streets these days. You should run from this squadron. I hit him! Why did I do that?
I'm pretty hurt. That feels better.
Right there. Imagine having to put down your own brother.
Oh my god.
Oh. Died last time. Come on, let's go. Woo. Let's go. It's those father-son moments again. Oh, but now Freya's here as well.
That if you just build great games, everything would turn around.
And then the great games point is the one that I wanted to argue against heavily, because what is the point of your console if it's not for games? Like, what is the point of having a console if you're just going to do Game Pass and cloud gaming? Like,